Good evening. Welcome back once again to SundownSurmisings. Pastor Gregory's here with me. Nice to see you.
Yes.
It's awfully nice to kind of end our weeks together. I like that.
Yes, and it is actually really nice to just end the week and with kind of reflection on Scripture and see, okay, God, this week has been this. What do you have for me tonight? And
folks, we're glad that you joined us. We were just talking a little bit ago that this is a good anchor for us.
Yes.
Just for our conversation. It helps keep us in the Word. It also helps remind us that after those weeks you talk about, it's like, okay, wait a minute, what's important, what we need to talk about. I do want to say tonight, if you don't mind, tomorrow, happy birthday to my wife, Amy.
Oh.
Happy birthday tomorrow. So,
happy birthday to you, Amy. Happy birthday to you.
There you go.
I won't do the whole thing for you.
But tonight, we're going to continue our series on talking about kind of, basically, you coined this early on in the month, God's foresight becomes our hindsight. Yeah, and so we're going to continue on that tonight. Doug's got a story he's going to take us through, and so we're looking forward to that. We're glad you're here with us again. And what do you got for us tonight?
Well, tonight is kind of some of you may remember last week I couldn't remember what it was going to be. And I think the reason is because I started actually giving it away. You'll see in the thing. So this is actually sort of part 2. Last week you took us through Joshua and his life journey. I wanted to rewind a little bit. I was thinking about, and what was it like in the middle of, before he becomes the leader, right? And after the pronunciation that all his friends and colleagues are going to disappear by the wayside. As I thought about that, and that's I think why I got a little confused last week, because I'd already kind of thought about, I wanted to do this, and in my head, I was already rolling that off. But Numbers 14 is a tough passage. It's super important to Adventists. There's 3 places in the Bible that kind of give us this day for a year prophecy connection that's really important to Seventh-day Adventists. And Numbers 14 is one of them. Numbers 14:34, I think. And then there's in Ezekiel, I think it's Ezekiel 4 or 8, and then there's Daniel 9, and each of those has a day for a year thing that's really important in interpreting prophecy, which helps you with Daniel 7, 8, 9, parts of Jeremiah, Revelation, anyway, a bunch of places. So, but embedded in Numbers 14 becomes one of those, talking about the ups and downs. We started with way back there with Joseph, up and down, up and down. And the children of Israel, we call them the children, although they were adults just like us, had the same kind of life experience. And of course, Moses was always trying to keep them going this way, but his own experience, he had some ups and downs a couple times too. His brother accuses him of something, his sister accuses him of something, the people accuse him of this, that, and the other, and he's up and down and up and down. And God's his rock, right? And then, but the people let him down. It's just a mess. And Numbers 14 happens on the tail end of Joshua and Caleb. It's been 2 years since they left Egypt.
Okay.
And or thereabouts. The time period is a little hard to figure out. And they've left Egypt. They've seen the plagues. They've seen the part of the Red Sea. Miriam's had her song, and riders cast in the sea. Everybody's so right here. Then they had the whole, we have no water, Meribah, the bitter waters, but then God takes care of that. They started having the manna and everything. It's like, oh wow, God's got us, right?
He's going to take care of it.
He's going to take care of us. He promised to take us to the promised land. We're going. Send in 12 spies. We call them 12 spies. One leader from each tribe, which is fascinating because it's much like, I'm just making this connection. It's much like will be later, when a leader from each tribe will take a stone as a memorial, but it's also much like before the marker that Jacob said with his family as a leader will do, right? The originators of that tribe had originally put markers up. That was the mitzvah. And so these people, they're in that middle part of you get chosen, you're going to represent. Go out and see what you can do.
I think back in July we were talking about the memorials. We were talking about memorials there back
because it was connected to July 4th. That's right.
And that is interesting that they said that memorial back in the Mizpah, and then now this is happening, they're being chosen again.
And they're being from that. And they go out, and 10 of them, if you don't know the story again, Numbers, you can, 12, 13, 14. 14 is where it comes to the head. And God says, fine. then you didn't like what happened. 40 days you went looking. 40 days you're going to wander until every single one of you is dead in the wilderness. Your entire generation will die, except for the 2 who've been faithful.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Based upon, again, with the hindsight, but based on who you know who you are. Because I think sometimes we wonder, like, where would I place myself in this history? Knowing who you are, either have been one of the going in, one of the 12 that went in, or one of the ones listening.
Yeah.
Do you think that because we don't know what dynamics they live
Right,
in.
we don't know if everybody went with the 12. Maybe some people said, hey, Joshua and Caleb, but then they end up suffering. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I wonder. I like to think that I would be strong enough of character in the sense of saying, because I'm pretty bullheaded, that if I get an idea in my head, I'd be like, I don't care what y'all think, I'm doing this.
Right.
So I like to think I'd be a Caleb. Probably not a Joshua, because Joshua's too much of a born leader. It's not my style. But Caleb's his partner. Caleb's always, and I think that's been my style once I figured out more, trying not to be a leader, but I'm a partner. I'm a good second string or second fiddle or whatever. I think I work well with that, and pretty firm in that. I like to think I would be there, but man, that would have been tough.
Yeah.
Right? Because they came back and they're excited.
Right. Yeah.
Like, oh, this is awesome. This is great. We got this. And wait. And everybody's
the rest of them were like, well, what are you saying?
What are you saying? And they're like, wait, what land did you see?
Yeah.
Well, they were big and giants, but we got God. They don't, and it all comes crashing down. So Numbers 14 is where I want to read, which is it is a difficult passage, and that's why I kind of want to read it together. So the book of Numbers, you have Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. It's the 4th book of the Pentateuch, or the Torah, or the books of Moses, or the books of the law, however you want to refer to it. And it's in here that the story is recorded of the failure for the people, and then what happens to them. So 14, the people rebel. And I'm going to kind of skip through a couple of parts, and we're going to stop with one of the verses. So verse 1, that night all the people of the community raised their voices and wept. All the Israelites grumbled, verse 2, against Moses and Aaron. The whole assembly said, if only we had died in Egypt or in this desert. 3, why is the Lord bringing us to this land only to let us fall by the sword? Our wives and children will be taken as plunder. Wouldn't it be better for us to go back to Egypt? And
well, they want to go all the way back.
They want to go all the way back. It's like they've forgotten what it was like was happening. Their wives and children would be slaves, beaten, and killed already. So anyway, and Moses and Aaron fell face down in front of the whole assembly. And Joshua son of Nun and Caleb son of Jephunneh, who were among those who had explored the land, tore their clothes and said to the entire Israelite assembly, the land we passed through and explored is exceedingly good. If the Lord is pleased, He will lead us into that land, a land flowing with milk and honey. Will give it to us. Only do not rebel against the Lord. Do not be afraid of the people of the land, because we will swallow them up. Their protection is gone. The Lord is with us. Do not be afraid. What I find interesting in a couple things there, it mentions Moses and Aaron fell down, but it says Joshua and Caleb, who were among those, tore their clothes and said. Now this is what I find follows on. What is Joshua going to have to hear said to him in about 40 years?
We should have gone back to Egypt.
Well, no. Well, yeah, but here he is saying to the people.
Oh, yes.
He is saying, do not rebel. Do not be afraid.
Right.
Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid.
God's going to remind him.
God's going to remind him in 38 some odd years, 40 years, He's going to say, remember when you had that little speech to all those people? Do not be afraid.
Yeah.
Do not be afraid.
Yeah, reminds him. Yeah.
I think that happens even to the best of the leaders, right? To talk on Joshua's story, is that, here he is, he has this, God can do it. But when it's his turn to lead, he's kind of like, I don't know.
Question under. Yeah.
You got strong, this. Courageous. And the verse that I want to end only as a warning for those who forget that God will be with us, right? So Noah, middle of the thing, God will be here. Yeah, you're going to have to spend some time. It's going to be a long year.
Yeah.
Joseph, a long 2 decades.
Yeah.
So a little more than 2. And then Joshua, he had 40 years of ministry, active ministry after Moses left. And a long 40 years. And he's about to go through a different 40 years. He's about to experience like, oh, you're going to be wandering around. And through no fault of his own, right? He did everything right. Just like Joseph.
Yeah.
I wore the mask. I did the social isolation. I followed the this, that, and the other. How come this falls to me?
Yeah.
Right? And maybe that's where I keep finding these lessons as I keep looking through Scripture and trying to go, okay, God, nothing that's happening is a surprise to you. Nothing. There's no way we can take you by surprise. So God knew that 2020 was coming. It was going to be an incredibly horrible year.
Yes.
So there are stories in here that have meaning for us to give us the strength and courage to be strong and courageous to carry on. This is nothing new. Now, again, you mentioned Abraham being in the promise of going to be multiplied. He hadn't have a child yet.
Right.
And it's going to be 25 years. He was 75 years old when that happened, if I remember right. And he doesn't get a child until he's 100.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like 25 years seems like a long time to wait for a child. 40 years to pay the price for having done everything right. And if you're feeling like that, if you're feeling like, God, I did everything right, how did we lose our job? God, we did everything right. How come the school can't open like we want it to open? God, I did everything right. How come?
But they didn't throw their hands up in despair and leave it.
No.
They
in fact, they worship.
Yeah.
They worship. And ooh, wow, think about that. So when Noah comes out of the boat, and literally everything is gone.
Right.
Trees, nothing looks like it left.
Right.
You know, talking about like, oh wow, this is really, really bad.
Yeah.
Like walking down to what used to be the beach auditorium. If you haven't heard, we lost our beach auditorium about a month ago. And you walk down there, and my wife hadn't been down there, so a couple nights ago we just kind of walked down there and just...
It's strange now to see.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like dead, I mean, the structure is like charred bones.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just looking at the carcass of the building, and you're like, wow, okay. But then it's like, but there's part of this bush that's right near the fire that's still alive.
Yeah.
Trees are okay. I'm like, wow, there's miracles in the midst of it. God, I don't see where this is going, and I don't know how it's going to end out. But let my hindsight about how you've led be what I trust your foresight when I don't see.
Someone was telling me just recently about that same experience. Is like I cannot get used to the new view. You know, not seeing that building
that's
there.
True. That's true. My Wednesdays is my long jog day, and as I was coming back through the distant park when we were at the peak over there by Sand Dollar, I could always see it, and I remember coming over and like, something looks strange. And to me, I realized I was seeing the buildings that were beyond. I was seeing part of the laundry, the old laundry that I normally wouldn't see. And I was like, oh yes, that's right.
But it's not there anymore. Yeah. You know.
And
I think that's what the thing for us too. Sometimes the view, as for Christians, we can't understand the view that's changed. The difference in the view that we get nervous because it's not the same. And God says, no, I'll take you through that. So, wow, I think that as we've been talking about this month, the idea that God's foresight becomes our hindsight. Once again, the people there, that Caleb, Joshua, and the new people still had to go with the idea that God has something that will take care of me.
I may not see it.
Right.
But when I get there, his foresight that he already saw, I will be able to look back and go, oh, God led me every step of the way.
Yeah. And I think we see that so often in our lives, why those things happen. And some of you may still be wondering, I don't see that yet. I'm not there yet. And that's okay. We want to let you know that on our journey as well, we're trying to be faithful. We want to make sure that we're continuing to follow God and that He is our anchor to those moments.
The Spanish have a phrase, vaya con Dios, right? Go with God.
Okay.
And maybe that's the best way to end this, because the whole lesson out of these is go with God. Where you're going, not sure, but go with God. Right? See you later, guys. Oh, by the way, totally forgot. If you have questions, write D. Gregory at MontereyBayAcademy.org and principal at MontereyBayAcademy.org. Right. See you later, guys. Bye.